This video is about Hecate and the relationship I no longer have with her. I started to have a relationship with her in this lifetime in October of 2024, and I have cut contact with her and will not be speaking with her again in this lifetime, or probably in any other, since October of 2025. This has been a very heartbreaking and confusing process. It started in 2024 when I had a spiritual awakening. I had an injury that led me for 3 weeks to experience a life without any physical or mental pain, which I had always had growing up throughout my whole life. There's never been any time where I haven't experienced intense physical and mental pain. I didn't really believe in anything spiritually before that. I remembered a past life during those 3 weeks. This is like in May of 2024. And after that, I just fell into this deep depression where all the mental and physical pain returned. I didn't know how to get back to that state. And then it was in October of 2024 that I started listening to like tarot readings and messages on TikTok, and I'd come across those vaguely before, but when I hadn't really looked at any of that stuff previously since my spiritual awakening or in my life in general, because I was really scared of spirituality. I was really scared of things labeled like black magic or witchcraft. I now know that in past lives, certain things have happened. And I've just heard stories of scary things happening with demons or things like that, and I attributed it to tarot cards as well. So I either came from the standpoint both of it's scary and or I just don't believe it and it's fake. But I was feeling more opened, and in October I started listening to some messages and I liked them. And I started hearing messages about Hecate, and I'd never heard of her before. And I basically got the message that, to work with her. So I, up until this point, I had been speaking with, spiritually speaking with like some of my ancestors, um, some passed on loved ones, and I never had any experience like that before. And now I could speak with them. It was very different. And basically, I just wasn't very open spiritually still, even though I had that awakening. It forced me to be open for those 3 weeks, but I wasn't like having any type of psychic abilities during that time, other than this connection with this one previous past life of mine. And so what happened, well, I asked my self, and I realize now like it was my higher self speaking to me, and I didn't really understand that at this time. But I wondered curiously to myself, I'm like, I wonder how many past lives I've had. And this was way after the fact, but just telling it so it kind of lines up more. And I immediately got the answer that I've had 180 past lives. And then I wonder how many of those I've been a witch. I've been connected with the spiritual world, and I got the answer 70. And so I now know that in 70 past lives of mine, I've worked with Hecate. And that's why she was reaching out in October of 2024 through these messages on TikTok. So I started working with her. I ended up eventually like journaling in the mornings with her every day as part of my routine, and I was doing like different rituals like for her and such. Um, and basically the first big thing that happened was, this is probably maybe like late October, early November, is I was going on these walks and I was really anxious because part of an anxious symptom related to autism for me was feeling like I needed to face the correct way always. So if I was like turning in a stairwell, when I got to the top, I would turn back the other way. And so I was planning out these walks, and I had to like do constant figure eights, and it was very stressful. And I'm like, I just want to have, I don't want to care about what way I'm facing. I want to have like more fun and freedom and flexibility on my walks. And so in my own head, I was asking myself, I'm like, what, when I got to crossroads, and Hecate is also a goddess of crossroads, I'm like, what way should I go? And because I had no internal sense of, I had no internal sense of like knowledge. I had no trust in myself. I had no intuition, because all my intuition was fight or flight for the first 27 years of my life. And I'm 28 now. And the spiritual awakening happened when I was 27. So basically, what was happening is Hecate was helping teach me how to listen to my body and to grow a sense of like my intuition, which I appreciated at the time. It's just I know I could have gotten there a different way, and I wish I would have gotten there a different way without her, now that we've been through everything we've been through, which I'll explain. And I'm angry about it. It's very frustrating and upsetting. So what happened on these walks is she talks through various different creatures, one of them being crows. And the crows, every time my body kind of tensed up when I'm like, should I go this way? And then my body tensed up, the crows would caw 2 times. And if instead I said, oh, then should I go this way? They would crow 4 times, meaning yes. And if my body was kind of half and half, they'd caw 3 times. So I didn't believe this was happening for the first like 10, 15 minutes. And this has never happened before in my life. But after like 15 minutes, where every time I asked myself a question in my own head, I wasn't even speaking aloud. I didn't understand how like spirituality or like communicating worked at this time, at least like for me and my abilities and with it. But anytime my body was saying no, the crows would caw 2 times. Anytime my body said maybe, 3 times. Anytime my body said yes, 4 times. And I tried it out with other questions too. Then, should I go this way? Instead, I said questions that were like obvious, like, should I be kind to myself? 4 crows. Should I hurt myself? 2 caws, right? And it wasn't just one crow. There were like dozens of crows around me following me on this walk. Like, it was incredibly obvious. It was incredibly obvious, and nothing like this has ever happened before in my life. And I didn't previously like believe that could happen. So that was a way Hecate was speaking towards me, and ever since she was speaking to me through the crows. So they would follow me everywhere I would go. They would be communicating with me in this fashion, this very particular 2, 3, or 4 caw fashion, through all these major changes in my life since then. So basically that's how things were in like November and December. She also helped me like overcome this like arachnophobia that I had. Like I couldn't even look at pictures of spiders. Also was related to trauma. And I used to have night terrors, hallucinating spiders. So it was really bad throughout my whole life. And basically I realized I could like talk to the spiders. And what I know now is that you can talk to anything, right? Or at least you can try. And for me, I'm able to talk to anything. So I can talk to anyone's higher self. I can talk to any animals. I can talk to any plants, like, telepathically. And you can also talk to different parts, like if you section things up, like I can talk to just my head or just my heart or just my stomach. You can talk to just your hand, just your finger. You can talk to objects themselves. As well. You can talk to the air, you can talk to Ella, you can talk to anything. And just clear your mind and be open to hearing anything. Most of the time, I don't spend much of my day doing this because it's just not very interesting to me. And most of the time, whomever or whatever I'm talking to just doesn't have much to say to me. other than like, no, we're here, we don't really have much to say to you, like, you're living your own life, man. So because at first this was really overwhelming. This only came into full effect like 1 year ago, like in February, where like I could suddenly talk to all the plants, and I opened up all the channels to every single plant around me, and I just heard them all talking at the same time, and then I closed it off. I'm like, wow, that was overwhelming. And so it's taken like about a year for me to really settle into these like telepathic abilities I have, because I only knew on or off, and now I have very good control over it, to the point where it just honestly doesn't interest me that much, because I just have other things that I want to be doing with my life. Yeah, so anyways, with Hecate, so around, this was maybe in like March of last year, I think. Yeah, in like March, I started, well, I was listening to channeled messages on YouTube now. I really like these longer content, and part of what I was doing, I was like, wow, I really wish I could do this. And I'm like, I think, that's like envy. That's me wanting to do it. So how would I try out doing that? And my ego was like, well, you don't know how to do that. You've never given a channel message. You don't know how to do that. You haven't practiced. You don't know what they're doing or how they're doing it. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm going to sit down and try it anyways. And that was me starting this YouTube channel. I just sat and I channeled just from source, and I gave a reading, and it was wonderful and magical, and I loved it so much, and I still enjoy giving readings. Now sometimes I do them with tarot cards as well. It's been really fun. So now I was aware I could do this. Again, nothing I ever imagined myself doing previous to this point, and especially before my spiritual awakening. Things like this either seemed fake or dangerous. And so basically, I was still talking with Hecate, and one upsetting thing did happen, but I'll mention it once I get further down this story. It's just a really upsetting story to me. And so I was already working with her heavily. Sometimes on on TikTok, I would give messages that things she was helping me throughout my day, and I wanted to share them on TikTok. So I would do that. But otherwise, I got this one message on TikTok that was about her, and it was about forming a closer connection with her. And anyways, I couldn't really imagine that, but I went on this walk, because she said she wouldn't tell me then, but would tell me on a walk. I went on a walk. She also greatly helped me overcome my fear of the dark, which was great. Again, I could have done all this through a different means, which is just frustrating. And so I went on this walk, and she said, instead of just doing some videos about the things she's saying, she wants me every day, like after breakfast, to do a message from her. And I'm like, okay, we're already doing some messages, but you want me to do one every day along with other things I'm doing. So I'm like, I can do that, sure. Yeah, so basically I did that the next day, and it wasn't until a few minutes beforehand I realized what was going to happen, because I'm like, well, you haven't even told me what you want to say, like you usually tell me. I digest something, I change something internally, and then I share it with people. And she's like, you don't need to know, I'll just talk through you. I'm like, I don't know what that means, like kind of how source or spirit talks to me, and I filter it and translate it. She's like, no, I'm going to talk through you. And I realized then the only person I'd seen before was Bashar, who's more like a alien talking through a human's body. And I'm like, oh. And apparently people do that. I just hadn't seen anyone other than this person. So I'm like, okay, if you say so. But I had no idea what her message was going to be. And it felt very overwhelming. It felt like something I wouldn't be able to do. But I set up the camera anyways, and and I recorded it, and I just let myself kind of relax like I would do for a channeled message, and she just kind of, she spoke through me. Like, it wasn't me, it wasn't my voice, it wasn't my facial expressions. It was very interesting. And basically, I had no idea what she was going to say either, which was very interesting. And the thing she said was really shocking, because usually when she talked to me, she would talk very blunt, concise, and like cool and calm, very direct. But in this message, she was very animated. She was very upset. She was very angry. She had so many emotions that she'd never let me see. Basically, she told this story over, you know, the next few weeks and months about how in 2023 she changed her approach to changing the world to come from love and light and compassion, where before she came more from her shadow of anger. Hecate also is portrayed as Medusa, and this is a trigger warning. She went through SA, which made her particularly very angry, and she harmed a lot of men who were harming others, and had people carry out that harm to these men. And in the ending of these men's lives throughout history, she was able to, kind of like a Horcrux from Harry Potter, she was able to split part of her soul into someone else's soul, like when they were reborn in their next life, as a form of protection. She did this with millions of people, me included. The people she loved the most and wanted to protect the most, and who had been harmed the most in her eyes in a similar way she had in previous lives. Also to note, she could never, by doing this, she never could stop the initial trauma from happening in that person's life, which is why, but also SA happened to me when I was very young. But then she's able to protect you like after that, basically. So I didn't know any of this until she was speaking it through me, and it was a very close, intimate relationship. I felt very safe with her in terms of, if my body wasn't up to it but my mind wanted to do the message, she wouldn't do the message. Even if I like hit record, she just wouldn't come through. She wouldn't speak through me. It wasn't something I could choose to do if she wasn't willing. She talked very kindly to me. I'd also just went through like 2 months of like clearing out all my internal like thought patterns and intrusive thoughts. So what was starting to be upsetting was that she was starting to speak unkindly towards me, but it was out of frustration, out of feeling like her own self-doubt, like the messages weren't good enough, or she was being too vulnerable, and it made her really uncomfortable. But she'd always stop when I told her to stop. She'd always give me space. We'd come back, we'd have a productive conversation, and I would tell her what I've been learning. And I'm like, well, she was here throughout, since October for me through all this. I want to be here for her to process all this, and together we're like this team, and we're helping, influence people and spread this message that she wants to do things a different way, and that's what I want to do too. It was also really important to know that first night when I was on that walk and she told me she wanted to speak through me, I was saying, well, I'm not going to do that if I don't agree with what you're saying. Like, I'm my own person. I'm not just going to say whatever you want me to say. And she really liked that. She said, I'm glad you said that, because I wouldn't have chosen to give messages through you otherwise if you weren't being critical about what I was saying. I was very often curtailing the types of words she used, how she expressed things. I was having this constant inner dialogue with her when she was channeling through me. So basically, and I'm really just like doing this video to really just officially cut ties with her. I'm really over it. I'm really upset. I'm really done. So I was doing videos, maybe not every day, and she started to get a little upset. I might do them as little as like once a week, a channel message. from her. And I was confused, like her main message she was giving me, which I now realize she works with the moon, and she was just giving a message from the moon, but it's not something she internally at that time believed herself, which is to go slow and be at peace. First of all, going slow doesn't always work. Going slow can be very counterintuitive if you're not in homeostasis, which like Mother Gaia greatly helped me with. And I also realized I could channel Mother Gaia, which I understand now is everyone's lower self. Like your higher self is more your soul, your middle self is more your body-soul connection, and then your lower self is the body, Mother Gaia, the earth. So anyways, I realized I could channel Mother Gaia. I realized I could channel a lot of different energies, I just never chose to, and I honestly don't think I'm going to do direct channels ever again. It's just not something that interests me or I feel passionate about anymore. And also like the heater going on right now, it just feels like it represents like my overwhelm about this subject and how it just has really clouded my thoughts and mind, and just I'm really ready to cut cords and purge it out of me. So basically what happened, so this was maybe, I don't know, April, May, June, July, something like that, maybe 3 or 4 months that I was doing direct channel messages from Hecate. And, you know, still, like, the crows were talking to me every day. She also led me to believe that a lot of other of the sound synchronicities that are happening, different appliances turning on and off, the other birds, she led me to believe that they were all hers, but it was actually my higher self, and she was only talking to me through the crows. So I don't appreciate that she misled me in that way. Anyways, in August I ended up taking 6 weeks off of doing anything. I didn't purge anything, I didn't like do any deep cleaning, I didn't create anything. It started with just 2 days, then 3 days, then a week, and then the weeks stacked up. It was like 6 weeks, and I never really taken a break like this ever in my life. And it was really incredible and helpful. And Hecate was really mad. She was mad that in this I wasn't creating, I also wasn't doing channel messages from her. And I was really confused because she was all talking about how, you know, to treat ourselves kindly, to go slow, be at peace. And I was going slow. I was at peace. You know, I was learning how to rest, and I was taking care of myself. And she was mad. And it was like everything she was saying previously wasn't matching her actions. And it was really upsetting to me. And I was just like, well, I'm just going to take space from you. Like, I understand you're upset, but I'm in charge of my life. And I'm going to rest if I want to rest. Like, I understand I did say I would do these videos for you every day, but I changed my mind. I still want to do them. I still think we can have a positive impact on the world, and I'm passionate about your message. But I'm not going to do something that's not aligned for me. So things were kind of strained, and mid-September I stopped resting. I started creating and purging and deep cleaning again. And so I started doing some more videos from her, and they were just a little different from before, felt a little more strained. And I kind of tried to talk with her, but she wasn't really ready to talk about how she was feeling as openly as before. And I'm like, that's fine. I can give you all the time and space in the world. You are your own person. I'm not responsible to you. You're not responsible to me. You know, I'm just living my own life. And when things all took a turn, well, I mean, for the better overall, but for the worst, it felt like in the moment, and it still feels hard, was in October. So leading up to this, I was just kind of like I was practicing like manifesting and visualizing things that I want in my life. And one of the areas that I hadn't really done that much before was imagining what I want in my love life and my romantic partnerships. And this was something that I had stopped dating when I was 24, 25. I'm 28 now, almost 29. And I had stopped dating after dating for all of my adult life. So like 6 years leading up to that. And and it took like 2 years for me to not even feel really a desire to date anymore. And then after that, I'm like, well, actually, I do still want that in my life. And so I was trying to imagine, and usually I would just, imagine, I would just imagine things very vaguely. And, anyways, I was working through all these things in my mind of like what I want in partnership for me, and just trying to really picture that for myself. And I was on a walk while I was doing this and going through various emotions. And I was trying to kind of ask myself questions and just um, just look inside myself and kind of question myself and explore. And Hecate kind of started talking to me, just kind of was in my energetic field, and I wasn't trying to talk with her. And she'd been kind of strained and odd before when it came to like my romantic interests. So anyways, I was kind of talking with her because she was there, and I'm like, hey, can you not be here right now? Like, I don't want to talk to anyone but myself right now. I'm not trying to talk with any other energy. um and she was just upset, and basically overall, she she didn't hadn't said this to me before. She hadn't divulged this to me before, but due to like what happened to her in the past, again, a trigger warning of SA, she is more just very opposed to romantic or sexual relationships in general, which she didn't make known to me previously. And I'm like, well, that's you, and that's fine if that's how you feel. If you want to talk with me about it, like kindly, like I can help you through however you feel, regardless of if that's something you want. It's just that you're very angry about it, and like anger is something to process and get through your body. I'm like, but I don't want you to put your opinions on me. Like, I understand similar things happen to me. Um, but that's not how I feel about romantic or sexual relationships. That's something I very much desire in my life. Um, but she was still just kind of there, and I had this like light bulb moment where I realized she put her part of her soul in my soul as protection, that although she does love me, she did it out of fear of traumatic things happening for me. She did it out of anger of what has happened to me in the past. And, anger derives from fear. And I realized, I'm like, I understand you're protecting me and you do love me, but you place this protection on me out of fear, out of anger, out of fear. And I don't want any protection that derives from an energy like that. I only want protection that derives from an energy of love, and I don't need that from you. And so in that moment, I did this motion, just it kind of took a few seconds like this, and I just set the intention. I energetically sent that part of her soul back to her. And how I viewed it is that she wasn't aware that this could happen, that you could separate the soul. I didn't know until this moment. I knew in that moment, and I decided I was separating our souls. And it did. It just cut off, and our relationship it was much easier to close the channel basically between me and her. We are connected to anything and everything, so it is possible to try to communicate with anything and anyone. It was just a lot easier for me at that moment to cut things off. And I know a lot more how to energetically protect myself. So basically, I ended up reaching out to Lilith instead, because although, again, trigger warning, like things of SA happened to her, she's very pro, at least sexuality. And so I was asking her about things. It was helpful for the time being, but again, I could have gotten there in another way, which is just upsetting. And what happened with Hecate is that I think I took maybe a week off of talking with her, And then I was like, hey, I want to try talking with you and clear the air and see if we can sort this out. Like, I still was thinking like I was going to do direct channel messages for her for the rest of my life. You know, we were just like going through this rough patch, and she was having some tough feelings, some tough shadows to go through. And I had gone through tough shadows, and I just believe anyone can. So I just had a lot of empathy for her. And I sat down and tried to talk with her, and she just started yelling at me. And not only was she, you know, telepathically yelling at me, but the crows all around where I lived, they were all yelling at me too. And I'm like, this fucking sucks, man. This is awful. This is so violating. This is so cruel. Like, here she is, I don't know, upset about all these things, and she's doing something very unkind, and it was just unfortunate. And so I decided to take a few, you know, I told her, I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you like that. I'm taking 3 more days of space before trying to talk with you again. And I set the intention. I went out to this river that I was going to sit down by the river. I was going to put my hands in the river, and I was going to try to talk with her. And basically say goodbye, because I'm like, this isn't working. She's already, you know, broken my boundaries of respecting my space. It's not worth continuing a relationship with her at this time, which was just devastating. It was hard for me to even conceptualize, because again, I'd worked with her for a year in this life and 70 lives previously, apparently. And so this was just very upsetting. So I went out there, and Mother Gaia was speaking to me, which again, I didn't realize was my lower self at the time. I only came to this realization like a month ago when I finished reading the Flower of Life books. And I went down, and Mother Gaia, because I was speaking with her, and she was the one helping me kind of set these boundaries. She was telling me, she's like, don't go down by the river, go on a walk instead. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to go down by the river. She's like, you can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, I think you should go on a walk. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go down to the river. So I went down to the river, and every step I felt like I was being pulled to the walk instead. But I'm like, no, I've decided to go down to the river. I went down to the river, and I went to put my hand in the water and kind of talk to the water. And the water said, go take the walk. And I'm like, okay. Clearly no one wants me to be down by this river. Like, whatever. So I went on the freaking walk, and I was mad, and I didn't want to be on the walk. Because my plan was to sit down on the rocks, touch the water, and talk to Hecate and say goodbye. So I went on this walk instead. I was just really fucking angry, and I was just walking. And Mother Gaia started talking to me. She's like, thanks for going on this walk. I think it'd be best if we go this way. I'm like, fine. Because at this point, like, I'll do a whole nother video about this, but like in the summer, like I went days at a time, or like a solid day at different times, where Mother Gaia would just walk me through my day, and I made no choices of my own, and it was to help me regulate, and actually really quick moving energy to help me regulate. So I really trusted her at this time, Mother Gaia. And so we were going on this walk, and she immediately started having me think back to my previous dating relationships, one in which like it took me a long time, where I just kept giving the person chance after chance after chance until I physically couldn't do the relationship anymore, and I hit autistic burnout, and like it was really terrible. And then in my next relationship after that, I only gave the person I was with a few chances of like breaking my boundaries again, which my main boundary was, give me space when I ask for space. I need space. Like, if I'm upset, I am committed to not saying anything unkind, but I need space to get to a space mentally where I can be kind to other people. And so basically I gave the person I dated last, I maybe an extra like 2 or 3, like 3 weeks longer than I really felt comfortable, because I'm like, well, let me give this person a few more chances and let me explain my boundaries a bit more. I don't know. But in my mind, I'm like, well, that was much better than what I did previously, right? Where I literally waited for my body to give out. So I'm improving. And so my other guy was talking to me about this and kind of like almost showing me memories of this. And I'm like, well, and I felt defensive. I'm like, well, I'm still improving. Like, it wasn't this amount of time or even 3 weeks. I gave, Hecate 3 days, and now I'm going to say goodbye. I'm like, why aren't you just smoothly allowing me to do that, and it going smoothly? And she's like, you can do that, but you're going to have a traumatic conversation, most likely, seeing that the past several conversations you've had with Hecate, she's just yelling at you. And then you're going to have just more trauma to process. Or you could choose to just never talk to her again. And this concept was wild to me. I'm like, but I didn't say goodbye. I didn't get like closure. And she's like, did you really get closure in your other relationships where people didn't understand, respect, or listen to your boundaries? I'm like, no. And I tried really, really hard in those relationships to get closure. And no matter how hard I tried, how many conversations I had, I never got to a point where I felt like the person understood what I was saying. Or even spoke kindly to me. And so I realized, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're right. I guess it probably would be pretty similar with Hecate. Like, she's not speaking kindly to me. She's clearly not understanding what I'm saying or where I'm coming from. And so I just walked away. I chose to let it go. And I have a lot more to say about Mother Gaia. Maybe I'll make a whole nother video about Mother Gaia, but this one's just about Hecate. And some Hecate adjacent things. So I haven't spoken with Hecate since mid-October 2025. I'm not going to speak with her again. Hopefully not in any other lifetimes either. I mean, I feel like I've cut the cord, I've cut the connection, like... Anyways, what happened past that is that the crows were still talking to me. And I was just trying to block them out, which was frustrating because I had spent a whole year building up this automatic now knowledge system of 2 cause means no, 3 means maybe, 4 means yes. And what was upsetting was that, so I'm like, well, I was talking with Lilith a bit. I never really had as close of a connection with her. I was talking with her a bit, and so I'm like, well, Lilith also works with crows. What if I just assign the crows to Lilith? And so I tried that. That worked for a few days, maybe a week at most. And then I was on this walk, and the crows were kind of around, and I told the crows, I'm like, I don't want to talk with you right now, but when I get to the top of the hill, like, we can chat if you want to chat. And the crows did not respect that, and they tried to talk with me anyways. And I just knew in that moment, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to talk to Lilith again. Like, I can't, I'm not going to entertain energy that doesn't respect my need for space. But the crows were still talking to me, and it was really upsetting. And then from another entity, I got this idea to assign the crows to me. I'm like, what if I just assign the crows? Because, like, I'm like, I built this relationship with the crows. I don't know. A lot of thoughts went into it. Like, it was helpful to an extent, but I was realizing that the crows were reacting most to should I questions, which I just try to purge from my mind as much as possible and let float by. Instead, I more think of questions like, what do I want to do instead of what should I do? Because there's really nothing you ought to, like, should do. It's more like, what do I want to do? What am I going to try to do and see what happens, right? So, and instead, the crows over the summer were changing a bit to like other types of thoughts, and they were changing to just like more like affirming thoughts or not affirming thoughts, and that were like, I was feeling really confident and I stood a certain way and I felt this energy through me, and the crows started cawing a bunch. I'm like, oh, that's cool. They hadn't done that before. So I'm like, maybe we could just rebuild this relationship. So I assigned the crows to me, my higher self. I'm like, maybe this will work. And I was told to do this by someone I trusted and still trust. Um, so here's the background with the crows. Here's the background with the crows. So this is just one of the most frustrating parts too. Back in March of 2025, I was at this time where I was living in a different place for just a few weeks, and the crows stopped talking to me, and they'd been talking to me all these months previously. But I still had all the other bird sounds and all the other home sounds that were consistent. And actually, that's when those things started building up. It was just the crows and cars, that the sound of cars that had specific synchronistic spiritual meanings for me that were consistent. And during this time, all the other sounds, all the appliance sounds, all the other bird sounds arrived. So I felt like those more at the time subtle sounds were coming, and maybe that's that's why the crow sounds stopped. So I would pay attention to more things and just find more of a flow within myself. There was only one time when the crows talked to me, when I was living in this place for just a few weeks. So it was very startling because they had stopped talking to me, and it was only this one time. So as I mentioned, I stopped dating or being with anyone romantically or sexually when I was 24, and that I was 27, or just about to turn 28 at this point last March. And one thing that I'd stopped doing was watching any type of sexual content. And basically, I was interested in doing that again. I felt like I just got to a really good place mentally, and that is something that I personally enjoy. And so I went to do that, and I just got the thought of, that's something I want to do. I want to try that again for the first time in, I don't know, a year or so. And the crows immediately were telling me not to do that. And they didn't talk to me at any other point during this whole few week stay I had at this one place. So that was really confusing. That was really upsetting too. So that was really odd, and I didn't really tie it in until, later, like I said, last October, knowing now that Hecate herself is just really opposed to romantic and sexual relationships because of what she's been through. And so she put that on me way back last March when I wanted to watch sexual content. So that was really upsetting. And so I was like, well, maybe that won't be a thing anymore because I'm assigning the crows to Lilith, right? At this period of time. And Lilith is fine with sexual things. But this happened again, that I had been very comfortable in what I was watching sexually in the next few months, and I became so, and not really something I felt any type of shame or guilt or uncertainty about anymore, but just open curiosity and enjoying myself. And when I just casually went to watch something again, once the crows had been assigned to Lilith, for this 1 week, the crows again told me not to. Which again, it didn't affect what I actually did in March. It didn't affect what I actually did in, it was probably, October. But it was really upsetting and really confusing. So I'm like, why would Lilith be saying this? And I realized then it was because the Lilith is more about, she's a sexual being, but she's still very angry. She's very angry at men. And the type of content that I enjoy watching, it just doesn't agree with her personally, in terms of power dynamics, basically. So she's like, yeah, do sexual things, but you ought to be more in control or something. And I'm like, It's not what I enjoy watching. Um, so that was really odd and bizarre to me because I thought, yeah, it was just upsetting. So basically, I assigned the crows to myself now. I'm like, if I just assign them to my own highest self, it's going to be fine, right? I was just really upset and frustrated. And this is like now, like late October now, 2025. Same thing happened. All the same things happened. The crows, for a while, it was fine. I was trying to talk with them, but eventually they didn't give me space. I didn't understand. I was very much guided by my higher self and other entities. I was working to try not to make sense of it at that time. It was just way too raw and fresh and upsetting. And then even the same thing happened when I went to watch sexual content. The crows still told me not to. So I was just really frustrated and upset. And it just felt really ridiculous to me. So that's basically where I'm at now. I don't really know what's happening past that. And that's just where I am. Things have settled a lot since then. I feel upset that I no longer have a relationship with Hecate or Lilith or crows, in terms of spiritual messengers. And one big like purging thing I did was I went back and I deleted all the videos I've ever done with Hecate or channeling with Mother Gaia as well, which she guided me to do. So I used to have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel of Hecate channeling through her, and I used to have a lot of videos on TikTok directly channeling through her there because I would post them both places. So all those are gone now. I'm never going to do that type of content again, and that's basically where I'm at right now with it. So I appreciate you watching my story about Hecate, and I look forward to doing other videos about my life and other channeled messages as well. So I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I look forward to the next video that I do.